if you like science fiction games, if you like 40k, if you like Star Wars and Star Trek, and that's where your games live, that's what you do. That's what you live for, and all of the games mean nothing to you. And then you look at these figures in front of you, and you smile, and you might think, oh, wow, what are they? Who made them? They're ridiculous. That would be a huge mistake. And it would be a huge mistake because these are the earliest figures produced in mass for specific space armies. This is the transition. This is where it happens. 1974, miniature figurines. Now before that we have Asgard, and we've got people making individual figures, perhaps turning a fantasy type figure into a specific single science fiction type figure, or there were models that were for particular American style comics, or from superhero-y films, or from the television, but they weren't built for wargaming. That's the thing. That's the crucial thing. Games existed. Traveller existed. These games existed. Individual figures existed. But there weren't people making rules and armies specifically designed for science fiction. And that's what these lads do. And these guys fill the gap. 8 years before anyone even thought of making slaughter bases, they've got very innocent and naive looking sculpts, but some of them were on sort of short, small runs, almost like a garage run. People didn't know that their figures were going to sell, so they didn't make massive numbers. Miniature figurines you bought by contacting Miniature Figurines in Southampton in the UK and going through their catalogue and telling them exactly what you wanted from the catalogue numbers. You couldn't go to a shop and buy them. You certainly couldn't go online. These were my first ever science fiction figures that I fell in love with. I don't know why. They're not the prettiest. It always struck me as being the sort of army that could operate almost in my head. They were a little bit like sort of 19th century Prussian mentality, very, very militaristic. I've got a lot of them. This is just a tiny little glimpse to show you. I've got an awful lot of these, and they deserve to be shown in a much better way. And I will do that, but I wanted to do it like this first. So my idea is to show you these lads, the Seon pinheads, although some catalogues call them Sean pinheads, but I've stuck with Seon because that's what I remember from being a teenager. And then I've got enemies of the pinheads. I've also got bits of information as to other games and things, and possibly perhaps run an old style war game with the pinheads fighting their various enemies across the sci-fi world, and then maybe even use them to fight using modern rules. See how they fare using more modern rules. I think you have to remember with these early 70s games, we didn't necessarily have opponents. My brother and I had miniature figurine science fiction armies, but no one else at the club did. And they weren't appearing in magazines. There weren't people selling them at conventions. They weren't appearing in periodicals. Nobody was talking about them. I don't even know how I discovered them. I've no idea. Unless I suspect what happened was, because I was always more into fantasy than science fiction. Science fiction really, even today, doesn't do it for me. I'm not a sciencey, mathsy sort of person. I'm more of a sort of nature, woodland, spiritual type guy. So elves and fantasy worlds and ancient mythology, Mabinogi and those sorts of Celtic traditions appeal to me more. But something about the pinheads that must have attracted me. So I imagine the journey went like this. I was at the War Games Club playing Napoleonic Hinchcliffe. Some lads came back from university with miniature figurines, fantasy, which I thought were The Hobbit. Turns out they were doing Lord of the Rings. That's how I discovered Lord of the Rings. Finding out who made their figures made me send for the catalogue, in which were the science fiction element. They had a section, science fiction section. They also had what later became a Dungeons and Dragons section called Sword and Sorcery. They had all sorts of little idiosyncratic things. They had a mouth on legs. I never bought them. It's like a big pair of lips with two knobbly knees and big boots on. Wish I bought it. Yeah, I would imagine that's how I got into the science fiction figures. But I never had a regular opponent. It was always me and my brother. So even today, no one really war games with these guys. They don't fit anywhere. Do you know what I mean? My squats, for example, from the 80s, and my not true. I was going to say my Space Marines from the early 80s can still turn up in games, but they can't, because I'll show you later on when we get to the 80s. My Space Marines are tiny. They're 25 mil. And if you look at the Combat Patrol ones that came with the magazine, they're more like 32 mil. They're about 7 millimeters bigger than mine. My lads look all strange. I suppose I could pretend they're squats in some sort of squat version of Imperial armour. Don't know if I'd get away with that. Anyway, I digress, as I tend to do. So I got the pinheads, and I got a lot. I've got a lot of pinheads. And I've got a lot of enemies. I like them. Shoot me. What can I tell you? Call me old-fashioned. I prefer them to things like Space Marines. I'm sorry, what have I said? Oh no, all this subscribe. I'm nearly 100 subscribers and it's just gone. 99, 95, 80, 80, 70, 40, 30. They all drop off. He says, what? What did he say? Run to the hills. Sorry about that. I've just been honest. I'm not saying I don't like them. I'm just saying they're not my cup of tea. They're a bit too big and bulky and armoured for me, which is why I preferred squats, I suppose. Didn't like Eldar. I'm making it worse now, aren't I? Galen, you're in a hole. Stop digging. Somebody take me shovel off me. Yeah, so that's it really, I suppose. I just a brief introduction. Well, I went high. Brief introduction to miniature figurines, 1974. Transitional range between individual, random, make your own sort of science fiction to proper all-out Dungeons and Dragons, Citadel, 1977 Games Workshop, White Dwarf, Warhammer 40k, Space Hulk, et al., which came later, late 70s, early 80s. So these guys are bang in the middle. That side, very little. That side, massive amount. There, ooh, nobody knows. I might let you have a quick look at them some more, and then I'll do my usual whatchamacallits. You know where this is going. Ta-ra, Chuck.